Welcome to our video on how much does it cost to publish a book on Amazon. In this video, we'll talk about the costs involved in book publishing. We'll touch on some things that you definitely want to pay for, as well as some things that you might want to pay for. Now, the hard costs. The stuff that we highly recommend, even though you can't see it because we're blocking some of that text, but oh well. You have the cover, which is, the thing that presents your book to people. The saying of don't judge a book by its cover is simply incorrect. That is what people do. And in order to have a good one, in the self-publishing world, you're going to spend about $500 to $800. That might seem like a lot of money, but it is the thing that's going to sell your book. It is one of the most important things. If your book is not good, and if your book does not look like it belongs in the genre with all the other things in that genre, if it doesn't match, people aren't going to buy it because they don't know what it is. Even if it says, nonfiction self-help, for example, if the cover doesn't match what nonfiction self-help books are supposed to look like, people are just going to ignore it. If you're just going with a PDF, an ebook form, it's going to be cheaper because you only have to have the front cover. You don't have to have the back or the spine, which if you're doing a paper or hardback, you do have to also have those taken into account. For book editing, that's the thing that's going to make your book readable for people. You need to probably hire an editor because it's very hard to edit your own stuff accurately and well, and you need to take your editor's edits into consideration. You need to actually listen to them and do the things that they're wanting you to do. You can argue and whatever, and sometimes you might come to a compromise, but often if they say this needs to be cut out, it probably needs to be cut out. Or if this doesn't make sense, you need to put in the work to make it make sense, because they're working for you. They're not the enemy. They're trying to make your book as good as it can be because you're paying them to do that. That is their job. For a good editing job, it will cost between $2,400 and $3,400 for a professional editor to do a lot of the main work. That can vary depending on the type of editing you're getting. It can go far less or it can go way more, but that's kind of in the ballpark of this is a really substantial edit that's probably worth that much money.
Right. And the other thing about this editing piece is rather than them charging a set fee like that, what they typically do is charge per word.
Yes.
That is the normal way that editing is charged. So if you have a shorter book, it'll cost you less money. If you have a really long book, it's going to cost you more.
Yes. The average $2,400 to $3,400 is for a 60,000 word book. So if your book is like if you're writing epic fantasy and your 400,000 word novel, that might cost, $5,000 plus. And that's just kind of how that works, unfortunately. Right. But once that job is done, hopefully the book is way better than it was when you gave it to them. So you might very well find that cost, even though it's big, was definitely worth it.
Right.
Next, we have the ISBN, which is, in the United States at the very least, pretty much the barcode for a physical book, as well as even ebooks if you're selling anywhere other than Amazon. Amazon, if you want to sell exclusively through them, you do not need to have an ISBN, or they can provide you with an ISBN.
Right.
And that ISBN from them is totally free.
Right. And that is about ebook versus book. So on Amazon, ebooks don't require an ISBN, okay? But a printed book does, but they will supply it for free, but there's all kinds of stipulations around you using their ISBN, so we don't really recommend that.
Yeah, we don't recommend it because they then own that book forever. That book is theirs, essentially, so you can only ever sell it through them. You can't change your mind later unless you go in and make substantial edits and release a second edition not through them.
And then you have to buy another ISBN to do that.
Exactly. You still would have to buy an ISBN for that process.
Exactly.
And then we have interior design, which is what makes the book look good on the inside. It is the space between where the text stops and then to the end of the page. It has the trough in between pages, so it doesn't the text isn't right on in the little divot in the center, so you're like, I can't read. You have to have spaces there. You have to have the header and the footer. There's front matter and back matter that all matters depending on your genre. If you're doing nonfiction, you probably have appendices and maybe a codex and all these different references and things. All of those need to be formatted correctly. Again, with ebooks, you don't have to worry nearly as much about the formatting of that stuff, because when you're using an ebook format, the person who's reading it decides how big the text is, how many words are on the page for their reading preferences. And so even if you did go through a lot of that formatting stuff, it would be completely tossed away as soon as they changed anything. So for an ebook, it does not matter as much, but for paperback or hardback, it matters a lot. And on average, you'll pay for a good job on that. You'll pay from $200 to $1,500.
Right. And it depends again on the length, the type of book, and how much embellishment there is inside the book. Sometimes there's these little flourishes and these little fancy lines that go between, there's all kinds of cool things you can be done.
Yeah. And like with, especially with like fantasy books and stuff, each new chapter might have some fancy thing for the new chapter, some fancy graphic that had to be placed in there and then formatted so it's centered and all these things too.
Yeah, there's a lot of detailed formatting that happens with interior design, indeed. All right, so these are what we're calling the soft costs. These can be very beneficial, and you don't actually have to have any of them. Okay. I don't know if I would say the first one, you really do need some training, but you can get some of it, like on YouTube, as we've mentioned in other videos, right?
You're probably going to learn quite a bit here from us and from other people that you come across, just doing your little... It's what I started with, just looking down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Right. Find some people you find interesting and just see what all they're talking about, and you can learn a lot. And there's a lot of really great author experts on YouTube and other places. But so what is a coach? Okay, we were having this discussion before we made the video, and it's like a coach is someone who sits down with you one-on-one and talks to you specifically about your unique book and what you need to do and the actions that you need to take. And so this coach can gear everything that they're teaching to you and the book you're trying to write, okay? And that is far more beneficial than trying to take a training program, following a bunch of YouTube videos, reading a bunch of books. Like, having a coach will move you along faster than anything else, but it costs money because they've got to sit down with you one-on-one, right? So coaching, it varies wildly.
Mm-hmm. And also, something that I've noticed, unless they're very specifically in your genre or your subgenre, they might give advice. This is from my experience. The things I've read have had these stipulations of, they say don't do this or do it this way, when your genre or your subgenre doesn't actually have to do that, and the readers that read that genre / subgenre actually like it when you don't do it that way.
Right.
So there's some, unless they're very honed
specific.
in, they might be giving you bad information as well.
Right. Like when I'm coaching, I mostly coach nonfiction authors. Now, I have coached a couple of children's book authors, right? But I had a kid. And...
Wow, really? What?
And so I understand about children's books, et cetera, right? But mostly I coach nonfiction authors because that is what I write. That is what I know. That is what I've learned. That's what I've spent decades learning how to do better, okay? So you want to find coaches that are specific to whether you're doing fiction or nonfiction or you're doing whatever. But you can get away with not having one, okay?
It's very true.
But you do have to have training of some sort from somewhere,
yes.
Okay?
If you don't put the time in to learn about the stuff you're doing, you're going to do it badly, and you're not going to sell any books, and then you're going to be bummed out, and you might want to quit.
Right.
Or you're going to get training later and then look back at the stuff that you didn't spend the time on before and say, wow.
You're going to be horrified, basically.
That could have gone so much better had I known this beforehand.
Right. And what you really don't want, The reason we're going into all this depth with all these different training things is what you don't want to have happen is to come up with a great story and write it all down and think that it's fabulous and figure out how to put it up on Amazon yourself and then sell a few copies. And because there's problems with it that you didn't know about, get horrible reviews on Amazon because you won't have more sales after that, right? Your sales will tank and it's very difficult to recover from a bunch of really bad reviews. So you want it edited. You don't want bad spelling. You don't want bad grammar unless that's the way that character would speak, right? There's times when you break rules, right? But, there's all this stuff that matters, and that's why you want to get trained. You want to have a coach, or you want to learn it all yourself, but you don't just throw something up on Amazon and like cross your fingers and hope it works, because you can get destroyed in the reviews and not good. Not good. Okay. Next up is a website. Now, we really recommend a website, but you don't actually have to have one. You can work just totally on social media. But you got to have a way to let people know about you and your work, right? And so what a lot of us do is we have a website. We're on multiple social media platforms. We're here on YouTube talking. We want as many different ways for people to find out about us and to begin to know, like, and trust us that we can possibly come up with, right?
While on the other hand, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin.
Right.
You want to start off and probably get good at one or two types of platforms, be that a website and Instagram, for instance.
Right.
Get good at those two. Okay, cool. These are working, or one of them isn't working, the other one is. I'm going to stop focusing on that one and reach out to another one.
Right.
And you just kind of build it up until you have enough that you're spread out, but you're not spending all of your time posting on social media.
Right. So to have a website put up, a good one that does all the things that a good author website should do, it's going to cost you around $500 to upwards of $5,000. And it just depends on what all you need in there. And hosting, so that is just to have it designed and have it put up and have it working and have it so that people can find you. But there's ongoing costs with having a website. There's hosting, there's, if you take credit cards, like there's all these little costs that are monthly fees that happen again and again and again. And those can range from like $5 a month to about $50 a month on average. Next up is an email service. Now, an email service means that you have some sort of program, some sort of software company that if a person goes to your website, or if they see you on social media, or they see you speak live, you can send them to an address online, a URL, a web address, that they can get like a free gift from you, which allows them to be then added to your mailing list. I'm sure you've joined mailing lists that way. You know what I'm talking about. And what having a mailing list does is, one, you own those names. Those people have voluntarily said they're interested in what you do. So they are by far the best customers, the people that seem to know you the best, the people that follow you, the people that buy your new books. An email list is really key. And so with the service, what happens is you can send them a newsletter. You can send them out something little every week or every month. You can also have what's called an autoresponder series. So the second somebody signs up for your mailing list, they immediately get an email delivering the gift that you promised, whether it's a recording or a sample chapter from a book or a prequel or whatever it is that you're going to give away. And then, every couple of days, it sends them another thing, maybe talking about endorsements or maybe, talking about one of the books that you've written. Mm-hmm. And so it helps them get to know, like, and trust you. Yep. Okay.
And then once you have them knowing, liking, and trusting you, they've already read your book because they probably got on your mailing list from the back matter in your book. Then you can say, hey, here's the sequel, or hey, here's my next book. And then you already have a bunch of people who have agreed that they like you. And hey, here's the next book. Cool, I'm going to buy it straight from here.
Right. And the bigger that list gets, and the more book sales you make on your own, the easier it is to get a book deal if you want one later on. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, if you want to Like,
the easiest way to get a book deal these days with a traditional publisher is to have already sold some stuff.
yeah, already sell a certain number of books. I'm not sure exactly what that number is,
Yeah, but
have a really big mailing list and a really big social media following. That's what they're looking for, because they want to make sure that you can prove that you can sell books.
Yep. And if you've already sold several with bestseller titles and all, different accolades on it already, they'll look at you and say, huh, I like this one. Well, if you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you have any questions, leave a comment and we'll get back to you. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of when we upload our next video. And if you like push notifications, go ahead and hit the bell icon. Hi, this is the Deep Dive Publishers editing staff, coming to you with a message. The video ended up way too long for what we were intending. We hoped to stick within like 10 to 15 minutes. This was 30 minutes. So we've gone ahead and cut this one into 2 parts. We are going to, in the next part, continue our discussion on the soft costs, as well as give you one of the best ways to save money on all of these different things.
Alrighty. Enjoy. Till next time.